How are we doing today, Chicago Cubs fans? And we are back with another edition of Cubs Daily. My name is Steven Ryan. The Cubs come out to yesterday with a convincing 8-3 victory. It was a total team effort. No Kyle Tucker in the lineup. No problem, okay? PCA, Michael Busch, we're going to get into all that. We got some more trade speculation. The more and more time goes on, the more it looks like Sandy Alcantara is going to be the perfect fit for the Chicago Cubs team. And then we'll preview the next game in the series tonight. But before we get into all that, just a big shout out to everyone who's liked the videos, subscribed to the channel, and continues to comment and share your thoughts. This is an inclusive Cubs community, so I want to hear all of your opinions. So keep it up. Cubs win 8-3 yesterday in a very, very impressive victory. It didn't start out hot, right? C.J. Abrams immediately got on, stole second, and was driven in a few moments later, and then the Cubs were down 1-0. But again, I'm not sure what the percentage is at this year so far, but the Cubs continue to respond back. They answer back with a run of their own after a Michael Busch triple and a Dansby Swanson sac fly. Absolutely beautiful to see. And again, that includes the Michael Busch slugging portion. Then the Nationals, again, a few innings later, jump out to a 3-1 lead. But then the Cubs answer right back and tie it up at 3. And then after that, they score 5 more runs. The bullpen does its job. Again, Cade Horton looking very solid. He had a couple jams, but he was able to get himself out of it. I would say besides the Mets lineup that he faced in his first career start, his first career game, because he was a reliever that day, the Nationals is probably the best lineup he has faced, especially given the young talent that's in that lineup, including the likes of James Woods, C.J. Abrams, Robert Hassel, etc. Luis Garcia has been in the league for a while now, so he's a seasoned pro. The Nationals are an up-and-coming squad. I don't think they're going to the playoffs this year, but they're going to flirt around 500, and they're going to be a thorn in some people's side. There's no doubt about that. The Nationals can play ball, so I imagine to watch them progress over the next few years. PCA and Busch lead the way, ladies and gentlemen. Busch had a triple, which led to the first round. He tacked on a home run at the end to make it 8-3. PCA had one hit, but he drew a walk. He got on base, stole 2 more bases. This team is just top to bottom, 1 through 9, a threat in every which way. Matt Shaw is batting down in the order, and he is out there roping doubles to right field. I mean, the team from top, and this was without Kyle Tucker. I don't want to sit here and bank on Kyle Tucker, but when you put Kyle Tucker in that lineup, it just makes everyone else more of a threat. I saw a funny tweet yesterday, and they're like, is this going to be the sack fly game? Because I know Dansby Swanson had a couple of sack flies. Seiya had a sack fly. Either way, it's about getting the job done. If you can get a run at a third with less than 2 outs, get them home. If you find a way to get them home, you're going to win a lot of ball games, and that is exactly what this Cubs team does. And they are facing a very hot Nationals team who's been 10-4 in their last 14 games, averaging over 5 runs a game. But the Nationals still do have a weak point. It is their pitching staff. It is developing. So you got to pay attention to that still. But either way, kind of a great way for the Cubs to just slow the brakes on this National squad. And PCA and Michael Busch have been absolutely nothing but spectacular. Last year, we saw glimpses of it with Michael Busch in the beginning, right? He had 5 home runs in 5 consecutive games. He was hitting really well. I think this year he kind of understands how it's supposed to go, the process more, because last year was his first full year as a full-time player. He was in the Dodgers organization the year prior to that one, and obviously the Dodgers are just loaded with Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts. There was just no place for him to go, honestly. Cubs made a fantastic deal. They got Busch, and now after a full year of getting those reps out at first base, he is looking to lock himself in as our full-time first baseman, which is absolutely incredible to see. Obviously, PCA is one of our top prospects. Actually, he's not a prospect anymore. He's just the man now. He's looking to become an MVP, maybe potentially. And again, 2 more stolen bases last night. I don't know if you guys saw that play at third base with Carson Kelly, but he stole third, right? And then Carson Kelly grounded one to third base. And PCA danced, not halfway down the line, but let's say like a third or 40% of the way down the line. And he was looking at the third baseman the whole time, right? He was eyeing him up. He was dancing. He's like, hey, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Just long enough for Carson Kelly to continue to bust down to first base and get on base. And that third baseman had no chance of running over and tagging PCA. No chance. He was way too quick, way too crafty on his feet. It was it was a heady baseball play. It was one of those plays I have not seen in a long time, maybe if ever. Kind of gave me shades of Javi Baez back in the day for the Cubs, right? Just making heads-up plays, putting the defense on their heels. Great things to see from this Cubs team, right? And hopefully they continue that trend tonight. We're going to preview that game here in a moment, but the more we get into June, ladies and gentlemen, and the more we get into July, it's going to be trade season, and the Cubs are absolutely going to have to make a move here. And it was officially discussed by one of the most prominent writers in all of baseball, Jeff Passan, these past few days, and he's been talking. He's threw out some other names, and we'll get to those names, and if I think they'd be great fits for this Cubs team over the course of the next few weeks. But again, that same name, that Sandy Alcantara name, continues to pop up. I mean, I know he's struggling down in Miami, and, it's tough to see how he would fit into this rotation the way he's pitching. But there's a couple of factors we all need to remember when dealing with pitchers on really, really underperforming teams. Their ERA or their whip or anything like that is not truly reflective of who they are. Again, Sandy is coming off Tommy John surgery. His bounce back has been quite the struggle. It's been a few years since he was that dominant ace that we truly, truly love to see. He's going on 30. But again, Matthew Boyd just came off of big-time major surgery. And look at where he's gone now, right? He had a few rough starts. They figured it out. And now he's one of our best pitchers on the staff. So I think if the Cubs like what they see mechanically from Sandy, they need to make this move and go and get him. It could be rough in the beginning, but I do imagine that he would become a very, very solid 1 or 2 for this rotation down the line. Now, what would the Cubs have to give up? That is an absolute fantastic question. I do not think they would have to give up as much as we only think, because he only has 2 years of control left. And again, the Cubs have a lot of depth in the minor leagues, and that depth might not see the light of day on this specific Cubs roster, right? We have an outfielder in Owen Cassie, an outfielder in Alcantara. Again, I think if the Cubs extend Kyle Tucker and they extend PCA, that closes 2/3 of the outfield. So, and obviously Ian Happ is a mainstay of the franchise, as much as to some Cubs chagrin, he might not be, but the Cubs obviously think highly of Ian Happ, and I think they want to keep him around for a very, very long time. So those outfield prospects might need to go elsewhere, and if it can help bolster this rotation, then I think the Cubs are going to have to make that move here. So Jeff Passan mentioned that, more as time goes on, he mentioned names like Zach Gallen and Framber Valdez, but those teams aren't necessarily quite out of the race yet. Again, the Diamondbacks are struggling, the Astros are struggling, but, baseball's a long season, there's a lot of games to be played, and they're not quite out of the woods yet on that front. So they're probably not looking to deal those guys necessarily, but those are names that could become available. We just know for a fact that the Marlins are kind of getting to that point where they have to trade Sandy before they lose too much value for him, because they're obviously not going anywhere. They need more talent. They need more help, and that's just kind of the way it goes with the Marlins. So let me hear you guys' thoughts on Sandy Alcantara. I understand he's struggling this year. He has not been himself these past year or two. But again, I think a lot more of that has to do with the fact that he is a Marlin more than his pitching stat. I think if he came to Chicago and he got a lot of run support, I bet you he does really well. I saw a great tweet the other day saying Cole Hamels had a 4.8 ERA his last year in Texas, but then he came to the Cubs and he had a 2.36 ERA because he was a part of a winning culture. So I'd be curious to see how Sandy does in this situation personally. So we have game 2 tonight starting at 5:45 Central Time. We got our main man Matthew Boyd on the bump going against Mackenzie Gore, who, ladies and gentlemen, leads the league in strikeouts. He is tied with Garrett Crochet. Now, I do want to add that Garrett Crochet has pitched 14 more innings. That's 2 7-inning starts, and they have the same amount of strikeouts. So Mackenzie Gore is obviously starting to really, really figure it out and hone in on his skills. Again, he was a tremendous part of that Juan Soto deal. It was Mackenzie Gore, it was Robert Hassel, it was C.J. Abrams, and James Wood. All those guys came from that deal. So the Nationals are looking to cash in on that deal, and they're looking for these guys to continue to develop and grow. So Curious to see how Mackenzie Gore, again, his win-loss record doesn't mean all too much. He has an okay ERA. Again, he doesn't play for the strongest squad. He's got a 3.16 ERA, which is very solid. Very, very solid. And again, for this national squad specifically, very, very impressive what he is doing. So, Cubs are in for a tough matchup tonight. Again, a big left-hander, great swing and miss stuff. So, curious to see how the Cubs do handle business on that front. So, that's going to do it for Cubs Daily today, ladies and gentlemen. Again, thanks for all of the support over the past few months. Let's keep the train rolling, and I'll be back tomorrow with another one.